Let's do some quadratic formula type problem. X plus 5x plus 6. How can we use the quadratic formula to answer, to find out what x equals to? Quadratic formula is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, where your kind of letters you see here, they correspond to the coefficients of your term. So in this case, your a value is going to be this 1. See, there's like an invisible 1 here. You can think about it. Your b value, that's just going to correspond to the 5. Your c value is going to correspond to the 6. Well, why did I write x equals 1? I write a equals 1, okay? So you see the coefficients of your terms. The coefficients of your terms are these letters inside the formula. Now let's just plug these things in and find out the answer. X equals negative b. That's going to be negative 5. Plus or minus the square root of 5 squared, that's 25, minus 4 times, your a value is 1, so 4 times 1 times, your c value is 6, so 4 times 6, that's just going to be 24 when you simplify it. But let's write out the whole thing first. And this is all going to be divided by 2a. 2 times 1, that's going to be 2. 2 times 1. When you simplify this, you're going to get x equals negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 25 minus 24, that's going to be 1. And the square root of 1, that's just going to be 1. And it's going to be divided by 2. So now, I would like to simplify this even more. So x equals negative 5 minus 1 divided by 2. X equals negative 5 plus 1 divided by 2. And basically all I did was I separated the plus and minus. I separated the plus or minus to 2 separate equations, you see. 2 separate equations. So we have negative 5 minus 1, and the second equation we have negative 5 plus 1. So this is just the same thing as writing it out like this. X equals negative 5 minus 1. This is going to be negative 6 divided by 2, which is going to be equal to negative 3. This is going to be negative 4 divided by 2, which is negative 2. And that's going to be our answer. And you might be wondering, why couldn't we just factor this? Why couldn't you factor it to x plus 3, x plus 2 equals 0, and then after that, just solve for x this way? Well, and the reason why we use the quadratic formula is some problems aren't going to be that nice to us. Some problems are going to have, some problems you're not going to be able to factor. For example, if you have x squared plus 7x plus 1, you can't factor this. And that's when you would use the quadratic formula. And for those of you wondering why we can't just complete the square, well, we would get a decimal if we complete the square. So, that wouldn't really be practical. So see that we have x squared plus 5x plus 3. Let's use the quadratic formula. Negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And our a value, that's going to be 1. Our b value, that's going to be 5. Our c value, that's going to be 3. Plug this into the equation, we get x equals negative b, so that's negative 5, plus or minus the square root of 5 squared, 25, minus 4 times 1 times 3, so 4 times a times c, all over 2 times a, but in this case 2 times 1 is 2. When we simplify this, we're going to get 5 plus or minus the square root of this whole part, 4 times 1 times 3. That's going to be 12. 4 times 3 is going to be 12 over 2. When we simplify this, oh, my bad, wait, hold on. I have this line right here for some reason. I don't know where that came from. Okay. So we're going to get x equals -5 plus or minus the square root of 13, because 25 minus 12 is 13, all over 2. And in this case, we're not going to separate our equation into two fractions. So we're not going to do what we did last time where we separated this into two equations. I mean, right now I'm going to do it, but I'm just going to explain why right now, you know, your teacher might not want you to do it. And the reason for this is because we're dealing with a radical. We're dealing with something irrational. So, you know, sometimes your teacher might want you to write it out like this, or sometimes this is just fine. Both ways are correct. But because, you know, we're dealing with a rational number, and especially if you don't have like a calculator to find the exact value, well, this way is okay. Say that we have x equals, x squared plus 6x plus 7. X equals -b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Our a value is 1. Our a value is 1. Our b value is 6. Our c value is 7. X equals -6 plus or minus the square root of 6 squared, that's 36, minus 4 times a times c, our c value is 7, all over 2a. 2 times 1 is 2. X equals -6 plus or minus the square root of 36 minus 4 times 1 times 7. 4 times 7, that's going to be 28. So 36 minus 28, that's just going to be 8. You can simplify 8, and it's radical 8. We know that radical 8 equals to radical 4 times the radical 2. So you can separate radicals as long as the stuff inside of it adds up to your multiplies up to be your original thing. So we get x equals plus minus of radical 4 times radical 2. Radical 4, we know the square root of 4 is just going to be equal to 2. So this is going to be 2 radical 2. And then all divided by 2. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to separate this into two fractions. So x is going to be equal to -6 over 2 plus or minus 2 radical 2 over 2. So this simplifies to -3, and this cancels out, so x is just going to equal to -3 plus or minus radical 2, and that is going to be our answer. Okay? So whenever you're dealing with something using the quadratic formula, try to simplify as much as possible. So in this case, we simplified this radical, and then we were able to use the simplified radical to cancel out the denominator with kind of the numerator, the stuff inside the numerator, to get our final answer.